Hey students, hope you're doing well. It's November 4th. Tomorrow's election day. Yay! That's going to be a crazy day. Hope everything's going well. I did send out the survey on Friday, of course, for topics that you guys need help on, and again, got quite a few, a lot. You guys are really engaged, and I love that. So thank you for that. I'm going to talk extensively about two topics, but I'm going to provide resources for everything everybody asked about. It's just some of these I don't know much about, and I don't have time to go research them thoroughly enough to do a good job. So I'm not going to lie, I'm using AI to back me up a little here. But a couple topics that were really interesting. I'll go over them at the beginning in case you're looking for a specific one. So the topics we got were, and I thought this was interesting, was why was the original Bill of Rights cut down from 12 amendments to 10? And I remember learning about that in college, but I've never thought about it much, and I've never done a video or explained that. And so that was an awesome idea because I don't have anything on that for future students either. So I definitely wanted to cover that one. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And that was Katie. Thank you, Katie. That's a great idea. Hadn't even thought about that in like 20 years. That's awesome. And then we got one, somebody requested info on the recent earthquake in Chile. I know nothing about that. I have a buddy that's originally from Chile, though. And next time I see him, I'm going to ask him all about it. But here's some resources I'm going to provide. And I just realized I didn't even share my screen with you guys. Let's fix that. Okay, I think we're sharing now. Okay, so again, you can see the topics here that are going to be covered in this email, but I'm going to talk about two quite a bit in this video, and that'll be monopolies and the original 12 amendments to the Constitution. So if you don't want to hear about those, you could probably just get out of this video now unless you want the extra credit. A couple of you asked how this extra credit thing works. You watch this video I'm talking to you through right now. You take notes on everything I say. You send them back to me to prove you did that, and you get the extra credit. Okay? All these other resources are just to help you guys or to satisfy your thirst for knowledge on certain topics, so to speak. Okay? Uh, Moving on, monopolies. I'm going to talk a lot about that. That's not what you think it is, how that works, but I'll talk about it. Somebody asked about social hierarchies and power structures. AI kind of focused on socialist regimes because that's, how can I say this correctly? Number one, that's kind of an obsession of Marxists and socialists is social hierarchies and power structures. And they strive to get rid of those and generally make them worse. I think it is safe to say throughout history. So they're obsessed with getting rid of those and making everybody more equal, and actually I think they usually make them worse. There's the haves and the have-nots on steroids, basically. So I'm not going to talk a lot about that today. I've covered tidbits of that in my economics videos you've probably been getting, but there's a ton of resources here that popped up. So that'll be really interesting if you guys are into that, I think. This one at the end kind of sums it up. This study examines the formation and reproduction of elites in socialist and post-socialist East Germany, shedding light on the persistence of social hierarchy. So even when you try to get rid of them and you basically destroy the government and all the institutions to get rid of them, you wind right back up at the start with them right back. Social hierarchies and class tension, you'll never get rid of it. It doesn't matter what you do unless you kill everybody off. You'll never get rid of that. And it actually probably gets a lot worse when you go down these Marxist pathways. I applaud their wanting to get rid of them, but their methods are not good. They don't work at all. I'll take capitalism for 100, Alex, all day. That's just me personally. I think at least the best thing you can hope to accomplish, in my mind, is that everybody has equal opportunity to achieve more wealth, to achieve more education, to achieve a better life. And that's the best you can strive for. And we're never even going to get perfect in achieving that, but I think we can get really close to where most people do have a fair chance to get a better education and to move on to get a better job to become more wealthy. You'll never make everybody equal because we're just not designed or created that way and never will be. So, anyways, there's a lot of neat stuff to read about there and look at if you guys are interested in that. We have classical conditioning for my psychology students. I think, man, I don't know why I'm still coughing. Anyways, I think that's a fascinating topic. And Pavlov, of course, did experiments with German Shepherd dogs to explore this topic, but it works on people too. It's really interesting. So that's some good stuff. I got you an overview of expansion. A lot of people are having that in American history classes and have questions. These crash courses are actually pretty funny, pretty entertaining, pretty good videos. Overall, the information's pretty good. So I think that'll help you guys. If you want more specific information, let me know and I can talk about it. But that's just such a broad topic that would take hours, okay? Cheyenne asked about Kennesaw Mountain in Georgia, the Battle of Kennesaw Mountain. I don't know anything about that. I've heard of it maybe once or twice, but I don't remember anything on it. So there's a video for you, Cheyenne, and it sounds fascinating. So that should be great. We had students asking about carbon footprints and the whole climate change issue. Um, I like to cover both sides of it, so I included kind of opposing views on it. So the video talks about carbon footprints and why you should reduce it to, save our earth, save the environment. And the other article points to the other side, which says it's basically a big tax grab cloaked in green, which means it's not real. I mean, it doesn't say that in the article. I did scan it to make sure it was good information. It basically says, yeah, we could cut down our carbon footprints, but until China and India do that, you're not even making a dent worldwide, and nothing's going to change. And you're basically, if America did that, goes to a carbon tax, you're basically punishing your own people, and it's not going to make any difference. But government will get more money from us that way, which some of you may think is good, and I know some of you probably think is bad. So I'm not going to touch that right now. But yeah, there's that. And then U.S. settlement of Puget Sound and the history of that. We had a couple of students asking about that, so I have a video there for you. So that's all included in there. Tomorrow's election day, and I thought I would just include a little history of America behind me here. So let me unshare here. You can see behind me there's this weird picture, and it basically says rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. And this was actually the proposed seal of America by Benjamin Franklin. And the picture is of the Israelites escaping through the Red Sea. When Moses and his staff, he parts the Red Sea and they escape from the Egyptians that are chasing them to put them back into slavery. And supposedly God parts the sea for them and then lets the waters wash back down to wash away the Egyptians who are trying to enslave them again after they just released them from slavery. And it's a big, long series of events in the Bible, and I don't have time to get into all of that. But if you want to go read about it, it's really interesting. And our founders were very in tune with biblical history and a lot of influence there. And this is just one example I thought kind of goes back to what their main ideals were, which kind of applies to maybe some of you as you think about election day, that their main thing was stopping tyrants, giving people the most individual freedom possible, and putting as many mechanisms as possible into place in slowing down the power of the government as it grows over time, as they all do over time. And I can definitely relate to that. Thomas Jefferson was a big fan of this as well, and he actually, there's a famous quote by him which is kind of depressing if you think about it, but he said, the tree of liberty or the tree of freedom might be the closest term today, must be watered regularly with the blood of patriots, which means if you get freedom like we have had in the history of the United States, eventually you're going to have to fight for it again and again and again and again because governments and people in governments always want power. They're power hungry. They're always going to try to take your rights and your freedoms away, so they can be more powerful and do what they want. And I think he was absolutely right. Um, uh, it's kind of depressing to think about, but yeah, you'll see government intrusion, a slow crawl of that over the history of America and every other country. One thing we can say, and I think I talked about it last week a little, is we have had one constitution in, getting close to 250 years here, and that's the longest existing stable government and constitution on the face of the earth. Some countries have had 40, 50 governments in that amount of time. So they did something right in designing our constitution and our government. And I think we owe them a lot of respect. They weren't perfect men at all, no. And there were mistakes. But yeah, it's we have a very interesting history. And tomorrow, Election Day, will become another part of that history. Um, Honestly, I'm not going to get into who should win or anything like that, but I just worry about how people react after, because this is the most divided I would say our nation has been probably since the Civil War, and maybe worse than that even. So I don't know. Just be careful tomorrow night, especially if you live in really big city areas. Weird things can happen. Okay. But anyways, hope you guys are doing well. I hope you have a great rest of the week. Let me know your thoughts on any of this. And if you're leaving now, that's fine. Otherwise, let's talk about the 12 amendments, the original 12 amendments to our Constitution. Okay, I have a list of them somewhere here. Yeah, here they are. So let's start. Let's start at the bottom here. Number 12. The power is not delegated to the United States. Oh, I need to share screen. Guys, I'm sorry, man. It's been a long Monday, man. Okay, here we go. Okay, Article 12, they call it. It would be Amendment 12. The power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So this one makes it in. It's just going to be a different number. I'm sure you're familiar with that one. Okay, let's look at number 11. The enumeration or the specific writing of in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage other rights by the people. That's kind of variation on the Ninth Amendment, what it will be. So that one kind of made it in there too. It's just a little different. Article 10 here, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. That definitely made it in, but it's going to be rolled into another amendment and worded a little differently. Article 9, in suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, yada, yada, yada. That made it in as well, rolled into another one. Article 8, in all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public fair trial. Yeah, most of that's in there too. Some of that is rolled in with the last one on the list. So let's see, did any of these not make it? Article 7, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of grand jury. Yada, yada, yada. There's bits and pieces of that make it in. Article 6, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. So no search and seizure illegal. That's in there. Article 5, no soldier shall in time of peace be quartered in any house. That definitely made it in there. Article 4, check this out. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So that makes it in there, but that becomes the Second Amendment Excuse me. Oh man. And they changed the wording a little bit. So a well-regulated militia, comma, being necessary to the security of a free state, comma, the right of the people. So they're saying because you have to have a militia made up of the people, and because people have the right to keep and bear arms, we have a Second Amendment. They definitely changed the wording a little, but it makes it in there. Article 3, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibition the free exercise thereof. So they can't force you to be a certain religion, and they can't force you to not exercise your religion, which is interesting with some of the things going on today. Or abridging the freedom of speech, press, yada, yada, yada. That's your First Amendment, folks. We're just going to change the wording a bit. Article 2 here, no law varying the compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened. That gets rolled into something else. I think a totally different part of the Constitution. I can't remember where they talk about compensation for senators and reps. I'll have to look that up. But it is in the Constitution, but I don't think it's in the Bill of Rights anymore. The first article, after the first enumeration required by the first article of the Constitution, there shall be one representative for every 30,000 people, until the numbers shall amount to 100, after which the proportion shall be so regulated by Congress. So they're talking about senators and representatives, the amount of population each one would represent here, which is fascinating because originally it was about 30,000 population for each representative in the House, and today it's a little more than 500,000 they represent. So it was much more specific and local to you back then, the people that represented you. You could probably walk down the street, talk to them, whereas today you'd have to fly to Washington, D.C., set up an appointment, and still might not get to even talk to them because they represent so many people. So we still have the same system in place, but the spirit of it is kind of broken in a way in that it's not as local and as small a population being represented by each representative anymore in Congress, because they didn't want to crowd too many people into a building. Well, whereas today we have the internet and you wouldn't even have to do that. I don't know. I'd love to see more representation, but I doubt that's going to happen anytime soon. So anyways, basically what happened here was we cut a couple of these and rolled a couple of them into each other. So you end up with 10, a net loss of 2 of these. But we still have almost all of this in the Bill of Rights, just so you know. But the wording changed a little and they got combined, and I think we dropped one of them. So that's basically what's going on here. If you guys want to read more about that, I'll definitely provide some resources. And then the one other topic I wanted to explore with you a little bit was monopolies. I would guess most of you know what a monopoly is. It's where basically one business takes over a whole market or a whole industry, and then they take advantage of their customers. So imagine if there was only one gas company in the whole world or the whole country, and if you want to get gas for your car, you have to buy it from them, and there's no competition, which there needs to be in a capitalist society. Imagine what they would do. Charge as much as they want, right? They jack up prices and make a ton of money off of you because there's nowhere else you can go. And so our government has in the past tried to create laws to help with this, to help consumers and to stop monopolies. And I would say they've mostly failed miserably, but have helped at times. But here's a few of them. The Sherman Antitrust Act. It says this 1890 law. Am I still sharing? I'm still sharing, right? Yeah, okay. 1890 law prohibits anti-competitive practices, including price fixing, bid rigging, and monopolization. It also makes it illegal to conspire to monopolize or attempt to monopolize a market. The Sherman Act is a criminal law on violations, yada, yada, yada. So it's a criminal law for trying to turn your company into a monopoly. I know a lot of the computer companies get hit with this a lot because, like, Microsoft and Windows, it became so big. It was the only, I mean, for a while there, Apple wasn't doing too good, and everybody pretty much had Windows in like the mid 80s, and they were putting stuff in there to make you only want to use Windows, like making it hard to use other computers and things. And anyways, they use their product to force you to use their other products. And so Microsoft has gotten in trouble for that a few times, but a ton of other computer companies have had that issue come up through the Sherman Antitrust Act, and they're sued by the government or fined and different things. And I don't know if it really does much in the long run, but it looks like we're trying to do something about it. And then we had the Clayton Act, 1914. This law prohibits actions that could restrict competition, such as predatory pricing, tying agreements, and mergers that could create a monopoly or lessen competition. So I remember like Kroger grocery store was merging with somebody about a year ago or maybe quite a few months ago. And it was all under investigation by the government because they said it would make too massive of a grocery store conglomerate and would, in some areas, I guess where there's not Walmarts or something, would almost create a monopoly. Like I don't even know where that place exists, but I know I heard something about that in the news. This also happens with the big cell phone companies when they merge and computer companies. They just think it'll be too big, and so they create all these restrictions, like the Clayton Act, on how they operate and what they have to do when they file taxes and show that they're not becoming a monopoly. So if you think about it, and this is why these laws actually create more monopolies than stop. If you're going to have to navigate hundreds and maybe even thousands of little regulations for your company to operate, who are you going to have to hire to make sure you're following those things legally? You're going to have to hire lawyers. You're going to have to hire employees to file the forms on all that. And all of this gets really expensive. And what it does is it makes it impossible for a new small startup to even get going in those competitive industries because they can't afford a team of lawyers and a team of paper pushers and bureaucrats. It's too expensive. And so the only people that can afford to do these things, and this happens a lot in pharmaceutical companies, they have so many restrictions and so many things they have to follow, regulations. They have to have a team of lawyers, a team of bureaucrats, and it costs billions of dollars. And a little small company that might do a better job in the long run can't even get going because it would cost so much to even operate in that space because of all the laws to try to stop monopolies. And so it actually creates and keeps monopolies in place a lot. A lot of economists have written about this in the last 150 years, that a lot of these laws, while they have great intention of stopping monopolies, they probably actually keep a lot of monopolies in power because it makes it so expensive to operate for small startup companies. And so yeah, the intentions might be great here, and at times some of these laws probably have done some really good things, but you have to be very careful with government and laws that you don't have unintended consequences that are worse than the original problem. And our founders wrote about that a lot in the Federalist Papers. But anyways, I don't want to get on a soapbox here. Just something to think about, but this is what we've done to stop monopolies. We define monopolies, and now you know why we have a ton of monopolies, even though government has made tons of laws to stop them. It's because they backfired and they make it so expensive to operate that only the big companies can do anything. So that's kind of a bummer. Anyways, let me know if you guys have any questions. Hope you have a great week. Send me your notes on this if you want the extra credit, and keep working hard, guys. It'll be Thanksgiving and then Christmas before you know it. Take care. Bye.